This is Jim Cornette, pro wrestling legend and administrator of JimCornette.com and the Jim Cornette Experience on MLW every week. And you are listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show and Angry Marks and all these people that are asking me all these questions that I'm answering with forthrightness and honesty.
Hello.
Hello, Paloma.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Undisputed Wrestling Show. I want to introduce you to our two host here with me is Zane Paisley, the Bearded Wonder, as well as the NWA Continental Champion, the Morning Star, Will Huckabee. Unfortunately, Q-Ball Carmichael wasn't feeling too well, so he did the open and he took a powder. But we're happy to have you. Welcome to the Undisputed Wrestling Show.
Thank you so much for having me, and hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Paloma, if you could, one of the things we like to do here is kind of go over our guest's career. If you could, let us know how you got started. What got you started in this kooky world of professional wrestling?
Oh, you're not kidding me. It's a crazy world. I always think that you have to be kind of crazy yourself to want to get into the business, but just like everybody else, I was a fan of it growing up. I grew up in Mexico, so growing up in Mexico, Lucha Libre was very prominent and was everywhere there. I was going to the wrestling shows since I was little with my grandma, and when I moved to El Paso in Texas, I started going to local wrestling shows there, and I was in high school age, and they were having ring girl tryouts. I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of fun, get involved somehow. So I walk up to the promoter, I'm like, hey, so what do I have to do to be involved, to do this ring girl tryout? He looks at me up and down and says, you don't look like a ring girl. Had pink hair at the time. You can see my tattoos and piercings. I'm like, okay. So then he tells me, have you ever thought about being a wrestler? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I didn't think I could. And then he's like, well, how about this? Come to training. These are the days we train. Come on in and see what you think. I'm like, okay, cool. So went in, started training in El Paso, and actually finished up training in Austin and San Antonio area when I moved over there to college, and haven't stayed there and haven't left since. And I love it.
Awesome. Who was your trainers?
Down in San Antonio and Austin, I was trained by ACW in Anarchy Championship Wrestling. It was Darren Child and Jacob Ladder. And then I finished up my training up in Amarillo with Cody Jones.
Awesome. I did a little bit of Facebook trolling today when I was researching. I saw some stuff with you at Taz's dojo. Did you work with him as well?
I did. I was part of his first training class for his finishing school. So it was kind of cool little deal there because Taz was only getting people who were already trained. Like, he didn't want to train people from the beginning. He kind of wanted just to fine-tune your skills that you already have and perfect what you already know. So I was really fortunate and so lucky to be the first female that he's ever trained in his dojo. And it was a really, really awesome process. Like, even being picked for it was pretty cool because he was trained. But a lot of people applied, but he only selected a certain few. And definitely first day there, I was definitely intimidated. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Taz. It's not going to lie. It did work out a little bit, but he was so passionate and so knowledgeable of the business. And it's definitely, you could tell that through his training. There was a couple of times where he was getting really passionate. I'm like, oh my gosh, he started flexing us through walls. But I learned so much from him, especially from like the other end of the business, like how to act professionally in the locker room and how to act in social media. That's definitely something I will take with me for the rest of my career, is how to act accordingly, and of course everything that I learned in the ring.
Awesome. I see it's been about a year since you traveled from Texas to Chicago. Tell us what made you do that?
Yeah, it's actually been like a little bit over a year and a few days. I was coming up here to Chicago for Resistance Pro. I started up here last February, and I was being booked here quite regularly, almost on a month-to-month basis. And the first time that I came over here, I fell in love with Chicago, just the city, the culture, the opportunity. And making my way from Texas to over here, I think that was a definitely big leap of faith, and was wanting to see what else was out there, because I think I did everything that I could in Texas. And honestly, Texas is so big. I was kind of tired of driving 9, 8, 10 hours to my next wrestling booking. I'm like, I don't need to live somewhere where everything's closer. So definitely, since I was getting booked up here a lot in Chicago already and had made it to a couple of friends and a couple of contacts, I thought it was a good move, good place to move. But I love it since I moved here. I loved it before I moved here, and I'm definitely glad that I did because I've had some opportunities that I don't think I've ever could have had if I was still in Texas. I met so many different people and wrestled some great opponents, so definitely loving it and making a name for myself out here in the Midwest.
Well, I'm glad you moved down here. Doing that allowed us in the Midwest to get to see you. So we're glad that you did that. You spent some time at NWA CCW, and that's where I got to first meet you. You was taking on Cameron Starr, the ladies champion there. So I'm glad you moved out here. That's awesome.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But yeah, great companies like ICW, and then also I made my way to Indiana just this past weekend at ICW Pro, and I've been down in Missouri too for Dynamo Pro. So I've been trying to get out and about and just hit up as many states as I can. Right on.
Zane Paisley, I'm gonna tag in one of my podcast tag team partners and let Zane ask you some questions.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. What have you noticed in your years as professional wrestling that the women's wrestling has changed?
Excuse me. I think a lot has changed in women's wrestling, especially. I think there's been a movement towards a more positive view of women's wrestling. We're seeing more as athletes rather as, oh, hey, it's time to take a break or, go get some popcorn or anything like that. But I think there's been a lot more people that have been starting to get involved at a younger age. I've noticed that too. I also noticed a lot more people coming in a little bit more prepared just because I think they see there's more exposure to it. There's more all-female federations out there now that have more training capabilities. And I think there's just almost more women in general that are into it. So I'm really happy that there's more women willing to be serious about wrestling because for a little while there, I felt like every woman at least that I met was in it for the wrong reason. So I'm glad that those girls are being brought up the right way, which are, of course, a few and far between, but I'm glad there's still, people wanting to do this crazy business.
That is definitely true. That is definitely true. So who are some of your favorite ladies to wrestle against?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I asked who were some of your favorite ladies to wrestle against?
Definitely I have a lot, for sure. I think every opponent that I wrestle has something different to offer and definitely learn something new from every opponent that I have. But especially wrestling now in the Midwest, I feel like I'm wrestling a whole new set of girls. And sometimes you get in that rut of, especially if you're in the place for a long time of wrestling the same person over and over again, and you get used to it. But over here, I think we're so close to a lot of states that I get to wrestle different people. So definitely some of my favorites are Lucy Mendez. She's based out of St. Louis, so for a little while there, we had a good run of wrestling each other in different promotions. So that was pretty cool about it. Another girl that I like to wrestle a lot, was from Texas, is now living up in North Carolina, is Miss Dyslexia. I've known her for almost 10 years now, and we've been all over the states and hitting the road together. But of course, I also can't say Darcy Dixon. I really liked wrestling her too. And Thunder Kitty, she's really a fun opponent.
Thunder Kitty, I had an opportunity to see her this past weekend. She's awesome. She's great. Have you had any interaction? Have you had any interaction with two of our former guests that we like a lot, Mary Elizabeth Monroe and Crazy Mary Dobson?
I've actually faced Crazy Mary Dobson in a tag match. It was last year in Indianapolis for Resistance Pro. It was me and Mickey Knuckles, a tag team, which was a pretty cool tag team, against her and Darcy in the tag match. Haven't had the opportunity yet to wrestle her one-on-one, but I'm sure that's going to be in the near future, hopefully one day. And for Mary Elizabeth Monroe, funny that you say that, I actually got to wrestle her in a dark match for Shimmer early October.
Oh, awesome.
So that was pretty cool. That was the first time I met her, so it was a kind of cool experience to do that.
Now, a big thing in women's wrestling that's coming up, and I want you to keep your eyes on, if you haven't yet, is Women of Honor, working with Ring of Honor. Have you seen anything about that yet?
I have. I've actually just started following them on Twitter not so long ago, but I'm so glad that's such a prestigious company like Ring of Honor is definitely branching out even more to include women's wrestling. Because I remember a few years ago they had, here and there the women's matches, but now I'm glad that a predominant company like Ring of Honor is really focusing on women's wrestling. And I've seen a couple pictures and seen who's on the roster so far. But I know they're building up a good company, like a good sister company to build off of a good name. So I'm really excited to see where they're coming from that and what else can be part of that. So hopefully maybe one day I'll even be part of that too.
Well, the women's wrestling, I think, is definitely on the verge of exploding. You got Shimmer and Sparkle, Women of Honor, and the Girl Fight series. I'm really looking forward to it. And you're doing your thing. You were just at ICW Pro this past weekend in Marion, Indiana. I got a chance to see you work Cameron Starr at Circle City Wrestling, NWA Circle City Wrestling. What other events do you have coming up?
Here coming up in November 21st, I'll be at Proving Ground Pro. They usually run out of Havana, Illinois, but I believe they're in a different town, which I cannot remember right now because it's their bigger show. Proving Ground, I think, is definitely one of the Midwest best kept secrets. They're fairly new, but every show that they have stellar matches. Every match is really good, top notch. Could be a mini event in any show. And also coming up in December, I have a few shows too. I have one in Mount Pulaski, Illinois for HWE, and I also am going to be traveling to Texas next week, but it won't be for wrestling, unfortunately. But it'll be nice to maybe one day go back to Texas soon and have a come home match.
Well, you had mentioned Austin that you train there. They've got Inspire Pro going on there, which is making some national headlines. So maybe you can get on with them because I've heard they're putting on some great shows.
Definitely. I hope. I was actually in talks with them to getting on a show there before I moved over here. Justin Biss is the one who runs it. I was actually met him very early on in my career, so it definitely has a great company going down there. I'm so glad they're making national news, and definitely they have a really good thing going there.
Yeah, I know Drew and Will Huckabee both have more questions for you, but before I let you go, can you give our listeners your social media information so that way they can follow your career?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For sure. I'm really active on social media. I love posting stuff, I love sharing stuff, especially interacting with fans because I think that's a really cool, different modern thing that we have these years that we could be closer with the fans. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, you name it, I'm probably on it. And all my usernames for it is Paloma Starr with 2 R's. So definitely follow.
So for our listeners that don't spell real well, I'm going to spell it out for them. Paloma.
Thank you.
is Paloma. That's Paloma. Last name Starr, Starr. And of course they can go
you got it.
They can go to www.theundisputedwrestlingshow.weebly. That's WEEBLY, and look you up through there. So thank you so much. I'm going to kick it over to the NWA Continental Champion, the Morning Star, Will Huckabee.
Hello, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I wanted to, kind of talk a little bit more in depth from something that Zane brought up. The huge explosion in women's wrestling and stuff, especially now, with the ladies match, main eventing NXT Brooklyn and stuff, and basically still the show. You started off in Texas, and now you're in Chicago and stuff. What's the difference as far as the atmosphere and as far as how women's wrestling is accepted between the two areas?
I think in Texas, women's wrestling, at least while I was down there, would still see more of a novelty and more of like a showcase and something rare that was few and far between, especially the area of Texas where I came from, up in the Panhandle in Amarillo. There was maybe me and another girl, that's about it, and the closest girl was maybe 4 hours away. So definitely whenever you had a women's match, it was definitely something special and more of an attraction than anything. As opposed to over here in the Midwest, there's a little bit more women here. They're definitely closer, so there's a little bit more matches, but not only more matches, but quality matches. There's so many different women that you could wrestle here, and you could match up and tag match and triple threat that you could have a variety of combinations, and whoever's in the ring, it's still a good outcome. So I definitely think that not only the quality, the quantity of matches is better over here, but definitely the quality. Over there in Texas, I think the women's scene is definitely going to explode, especially down south, like Austin, San Antonio, and all that area, just because everything's a little bit closer, Dallas area even. But I think it just needs to spread out a little bit more evenly around the state. And I think over here is definitely a little bit more advanced in women's wrestling. But I'm glad, like you mentioned, women's wrestling is definitely on the rise, and I'm glad I could be part of it.
Now, like Zane said, there's so many different all-female wrestling companies now, and there's, of course, now, especially where I live at, they're having all-female shows and stuff. How do you organize your time in between the, all-female shows and regular, wrestling shows and stuff? And how do you find yourself trying to avoid falling into a certain cliche of saying, I only wrestle this type of match, I only wrestle this kind of style, et cetera, et cetera?
I think that's definitely a challenge that I faced early on in my career. Definitely early on in my career, all I did was anything stupid or anything hardcore, I was down to do it. I've been hit with I've been powerbombing thumbtacks, been put to tables, light tubes, mouse traps, board barbed wire, anything crazy, I've probably done it. So that's definitely something just because I want to be involved in the show no matter what, even if it involves, me getting hit with a chair or anything crazy. I just wanted to do it, and I just wanted to be out there in front of the fans. And I think that's something that I really struggled at the beginning of my career, mainly being known to basically take an ass beating for it. But I wanted to be more of a well-rounded wrestler. I wanted to be known for not just me being able to take a good beating, but be able to be involved with the crowd and put on a good show, and of course to have great matches. So I wanted to be well-rounded, and now I think I've done a pretty good job of having a little bit of everything matches. I'm never going to say never, right? I'm not going to say, I'm never going to have a hardcore match again, but if the circumstances were right, against the right, good story, right opponent, I definitely will do it again. But I think it's a good thing to try to get time yourself and get a little bit of everything, not just do all girl shows and not just do, the one match shows. I definitely try to do a little bit of everything because you learn from it all, really.
Yeah, I don't know if Drew has seen it, but I've definitely seen it. And I think I know the female wrestler you were talking about in Texas that you worked with a lot, Brianne Hatfield.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Yeah, I realized. Right. I realize, traveling and stuff, that there are a lot of ladies who work like you and Brianne and Jessica Havoc and stuff, who are not the doll baby, really small, skippy girls who just want to go out there and make it look, I hate to use the word, but who go out there and kind of look really fake. Like, you girls go out there and you actually work. Behind the scenes, in the locker room, I've got to ask this question. Is there kind of a rivalry between ladies like you who actually can go out there and work and can work matches and know psychology and go out there and put it all on the line, and you find yourself, looking across the locker room at these other girls who are just going out there and they're just there to get attention and they're former models or whatever the case may be? Is there a rivalry between you, the two groups of ladies?
I would honestly would say a rivalry, but it's definitely you could definitely see the difference. I do find myself sometimes girls who have the cookie cutter look or the stereotypical, how I like to say it, society pretty look, maybe get more opportunities or better opportunities or are advanced further, than tough looking girls or hashtag team thick all the way, right? But I just see them maybe get more, maybe faster opportunities than anybody else would. But I think at the end of the day, it all depends what you can do in the ring. And if you can wrestle, the fans, the promoters, the fellow wrestlers can tell who can go and who cannot. You could sit there all day and look pretty and have a great body and are hot. But I mean, if you can wrestle, what's the point? And as like the saying always goes, the cream always rises to the top. So I think at the end of the day, while a more society acceptable looking girl might get looked at faster than I will, at the end of the day, I'm the one that could wrestle circles around her. So proud to say that I can. Still learning, but still proud to say that I definitely can hold my own.
Now this is my last question before I pass it back to Drew for a little while. I'm a huge fan of actual women's wrestling stuff, and I'm always want to see, female wrestling stables. They kind of have the whole little group and stuff at NXT. We have the four horsewomen and stuff, with Becky, with Bailey and all of them and stuff. But do you think there's any possibility that we'll ever see like a Midwest version of the Four Horsemen with you, and Crazy Mary Dobson and Selene Gray and Mary Monroe and stuff. You think that you ladies would all get together and kind of go out there and actually show other female wrestlers and stuff, and hey, we are, get together, form up like Voltron and be like, hey, look, we're the premier female wrestlers in the Midwest and stuff, and we're going to take every title possible.
That'd be such a good idea. I love your thinking. But you're so right. I don't think there's enough all-female stables. I think that's something that's been fairly new, and I think a lot of people have been barely getting into it. I know, of course, there's been really some notable stables before, especially Midwest Militia. I remember them specifically from back in the old Shimmer days too. But I think that's an awesome idea. I definitely agree. Me and those girls that you mentioned, we're ready to take over and take off belts, and that'd be a great idea. I think I should start looking into that. I like your thinking.
Hey, Drew, do you think you could talk to Troy's wife and stuff and see if she can be the manager for this all ladies group?
If she validates the all women's group, that's awesome. I think
we need a cool name. We need a name and T-shirts.
I think as women's wrestling grows, which there's definitely been a boom with an all-around women's athletics with Ronda Rousey and Serena Williams, and I think it's just kind of filtering over into our sport as well, which is great. And I think the more, all women shows you see, like we talked about a little bit earlier, Paloma, with the women's wrestling being a spotlight, type of match. The guys are too, it sounds kind of, gender, specific when you say, oh, well, the women, that's an attraction match. Well, the guys are too. There's just a lot of us. So you have, your monsters and your big heavyweights that can run, and you got your high flyers, and they're different there too. And I think as the women's wrestling grows and the more all women shows, you're going to see stuff like that. So, starting that all women's group might be something you want to jump on quick, because those things are coming.
I know, right? I know. We don't want to say it out loud too loud, because before everybody else starts doing it, we should definitely jump on it and do it. Let's go. Next week.
You can't let too many people know. Right on. Now, in Resistance, you're doing the prison gimmick now, right? You're one of the inmates?
Yeah, I'm locked up. I'm a prisoner at Clydemore. I can't disclose yet on why I was arrested, but I was just so good. I guess I need to be locked up and beat. And I guess the last time when I had a match, my partner is Heather Owens. She's my bunkie. She didn't like that I was being so nice yet. She wants to roughen me up, and she wants to teach me the way of the yard and really show me up. But I guess I'm still learning the ways of the other side. But it's really fun. I almost said it's really fun being in handcuffs, but it's definitely a different challenge, and it's definitely a good way to interact with my new partner, and it's a really cool different dynamic with the other wrestlers too. But it's lots of fun. I like doing that.
Well, that's awesome. Heather's a good friend of mine. I've known her for several years. I was there at HWA when she broke into the business, so it's great that you guys are teaming together. I was just on a show with her last weekend, so that's awesome. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, she's awesome. Shout out to the Classy Broad.
Yes, the Classy Broad. That gimmick started off with, I think, Suge and somebody else, and it transitioned to Remy. And how is it now? How are the fans, as far as receptive from it going from a guy group? Because that's kind of went from a guy group to a girl group.
I think they're really receptive. I think what really helped it a lot is obviously Orange is the New Black, which is kind of a play on words of our little group there. Orange is the New Block. So I think shows like that, like Orange is the New Black, and the women's wrestling being on the rise, so it definitely helps with our group gain a lot of momentum behind it. And I think the fans really like it. I think the fans are really receptive to women's wrestling, especially in Resistance in general. So I think even whether we were locked up or, running around like crazy or any other thing that we would be in, I think they would be really receptive about it. And I think it's cool to see the different transition, like you said, with Remy and all them into a women's group. It's kind of like the development of a character within the character. So it's pretty cool. They like it. They seem to like it. So come January, whenever Resistance comes back, we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome. One of the things I wanted to ask you is you guys were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I kind of lost my train of thought there. There it is. I was going to talk to you about competitive intergender matches is what I was going to ask you about. And let me throw the disclaimer out. That's why I kind of lost my train of thought, because I don't want to get beat up or nothing by you. But I'm old school, so I was trained that those things aren't necessarily right for the business. So, but I wanted to get your train of thought on guy-girl competitive matches.
I think, well, first of all, I'm a huge awkward. I'm a feminist, so I believe in equal opportunity for whether you're a guy, girl, or whatever. So I feel like if I should be a wrestler, I could step into the ring with anybody, whether it be a female, male in there, and I could, if I'm really that good of a wrestler, then I could hang with it whether it be of the same gender or opposite gender. But then again, I totally agree with you. Like if I were to step in the ring with you, Drew, obviously you're gonna kill me. It's not even so, it's a girl and it's a guy. It's a matter of like almost physics and the law of physics, obviously, even if it was a girl and there was somebody who was significantly bigger, stronger than the other one, of course it's going to be a less even match. But I think it's definitely a niche market that's becoming really popular now, the competitive intergender wrestling. And I think it's good. I think it's good for wrestling in general, but I think it has to be done right, with the right story behind it. I think it makes it lose less meaning if it's kind of just thrown together and kind of having it just to have it, or just to have it just because that's kind of the cool thing to do now. But I think if it's done right, if there's actually a story told during the match, then I think it's okay. But I definitely see where you're coming from, Drew. Like the whole old school mentality of it, and honestly, like you said, the whole physical aspect and the common sense of it. But I think if it's done right and if it's played out the right way, I think it's a good idea. I like doing it. I definitely enjoy it, especially if it's competitive. I like to be treated like one of the guys, or even like one of the girls. I don't want you to hit me any less harder just because I'm a girl. I want to be your equal. I don't want to be treated differently just because of my gender or how or anything. So it's definitely I enjoy them, and definitely want to see if they stay around or if they're still popular, a couple years from now, because I know that's definitely the hot thing to do. But I guess we'll see where it goes.
Well, that's I like your answer. I'm conflicted based on the fact that as a competitor, as a warrior, I wouldn't want anyone to put boundaries on me either. So to say I wouldn't have a competitive match with somebody, I think that there's nobody in the world, that I can't get in the ring and have a great match with. That just might be me, but that's how I feel. So, from that standpoint, I understand as well. I think, from my old school bringing up in wrestling training, as well as, just growing up a fighter, I was an amateur wrestler, trained several different styles of mixed martial arts, and was an unarmed self-defense instructor in the Army. So on that standpoint as well, I know the difference between a male and a woman in a fight. So, that kind of rubs me. But I also think, for you guys, I think you coming into a promotion, if you have your Barbie doll babyface girl, you should be able to beat her down and be,
exactly
dominant. I think if a girl's competitive with a guy, then it kind of takes away from that when the next big dominant female comes in. Well, this chick was just fighting a guy. I don't know. But anyways, I like you and appreciate your answers. Anyone else you got, buddy?
Well, I just cruised through your Facebook page. You only have like 21 open slots for your friends, because I think Facebook caps it off at 5,000. So our listeners need to go and request you to be their friend very soon, and maybe you might want to start thinking about doing a fan page, since you're almost to your limit.
Yeah, I actually do have a fan page. One of my very good friends down in San Antonio runs my fan page. I think she does such a great job at it, better than I would ever do. But I think it's under fans of Star, like fan with Star with 2 R's. But if you look it up, it definitely gives a like. I think she posts way more than I do, and she does a really good job keeping the fans and everybody up to date of all my shenanigans and everything. But yeah, you're right. I have like 280 something friend requests just hanging out in my friend requests as well, because I kind of add everybody. But
okay,
yeah, definitely everybody like my page, follow me on Twitter, on Instagram. I totally need more Instagram followers.
It's Fans of Starr with 2 R's, Venus, Venus. So we need to.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Once you're that 21 limit comes up, then they need to start hitting that, or they can just save time and hit both of them so that they can get all that.
Yeah,
action.
both of them. Why not?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. Here in a few moments, we're going to talk about the WWE World Heavyweight Championship tournament. Have you been following any of that?
I try to follow it. I don't follow it as closely as I should or as I would like to, but I've been trying to keep up to date. I honestly probably follow it more like reading the day after or keeping up with it online that way. But I'm definitely interested to see how they're going to spin it and what's going to come of it. I think Seth Rollins' injury was kind of like almost unfortunate timing, coming into almost WrestleMania season, but I'm looking forward and watching as a fan and see where it comes from.
Well, we're going to give some predictions here in a few minutes, so if you want to stick on with us, great. If you don't have time, that's fine too. I'll let you think about that while I kick it over to Will Huckabee.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Will, do you have any more questions for Miss Paloma Starr?
No, not right now. No, I'm ready to do these predictions and stuff, man.
Okay. Well, Paloma, since we've got another minute with you, what do you want to say to your fans out there?
I just want to, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me on your show. I know you guys have a big base, and thank you so much for having me. I know all your past guests have been great too. So thank you so much for being. I feel privileged for being such a cool show. So thank you for having me on. It was so fun, and thank you for all your great questions. I definitely like having, unpractical questions and questions that are very thought-provoking and not your typical questions. But I want to definitely thank everybody for all your support. I know it's been kind of a big move and transition for me coming from Texas to the Midwest. So thank you for everybody keeping track of my career, or if you're new or old fan, everybody welcome aboard to this crazy ride, and definitely hit up all my social media. We'd love to hear from everybody, and hopefully I'll see everybody on the road. If not, hopefully come into a state or city near you.
Well, thank you so much. Did you want to stick around for predictions, or do you need to go?
I'm actually going to go grab some dinner real quick, so I'll definitely talk to you guys later. So I'm a little bit hungry now, but thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to coming on later on. So.
Hey, Paloma, enjoy your dinner tonight, and thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us and all the fans listening. Make sure you guys follow her. She's great. She's doing big things in the Midwest, and we're happy to have you out here.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys are awesome. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, 2 great guests tonight, guys. Really, really fun show.